Okay, my name is Justin Leggett, and my presentation is over mental health and policing. I'm a criminal justice major, and when I graduate, I plan to become a police officer myself. So this topic is very important to me, very interesting, and that's why I chose it. The first part of my presentation is over just overall about mental health and policing, and then the second part is specifically about the Lincoln Police Department, because that's where I plan on joining. Yeah. So prioritizing mental health of police officers. All these points and statistics come from a Walden University article about the mental health of police officers. So first of all, police officers report much higher rates of depression, anxiety, and PTSD than that of the general population. More police officers die by suicide each year than in the line of duty. Police officers are 4 times more likely to commit suicide than firefighters, and officer suicide is much more prevalent in smaller departments. Productivity is also negatively affected by poor mental health. So, with the goal of police officers being to help and protect the community, officers struggling with mental health cannot as effectively do their job, and this puts the community at a higher risk. Also, most law enforcement officers do not seek care for mental health issues. There's been a stigma around mental health within policing for a very long time. Other reasons include confidentiality concerns, mental health. Officers feel that mental health professionals can't relate to what they go through and see on a daily basis, and also a feeling that this will make them unfit for their job. I thought it was important to note that less than 20% of officers seek mental health services, and even though mental health illnesses are very prevalent among those with law enforcement jobs. So mental health in the community. Most times police are the first responders to mental health calls, despite the fact that most people dealing with a mental health crisis are not violent. Most common 911 calls that led to police interaction with mental health include psychiatric emergency, people with suicidal thoughts, bystanders that are in the presence of another person dealing with a mental health crisis, or somebody dealing with a mental health crisis that is experiencing imagined threats. According to the 2018 United States Commission on Civil Rights, a person dealing with a mental health crisis was shot every 36 hours by police in 2015. This was a super staggering statistic for me, and it's very sad, but I mean it's the truth. And this is because people are not trained well enough to police are not trained well enough to properly deal with mental health situations. So to combat this, departments across the country have been putting in place crisis intervention teams, which are teams comprised of paramedics and behavioral health clinicians to serve as first responders to people experiencing mental health crises. So this is just a short video from a news station in Omaha about the ways that the Omaha Police Department are implementing strategies to help their officers more effectively deal with mental health calls.
Hundreds of calls each year for someone dealing with mental health issues. And for about a year now, those calls are answered with a mental health professional and a trained Omaha police officer.
Many times a family member makes the call to check on the well-being of a loved one. As John Chapman reports, this team of officers and therapists provide comfort for families who have to make that call.
A family member called police to check on a man who has not taken his medication. A mental health co-responder also called to the scene. The fact that the mental health worker is here brings the family some comfort.
I am very relieved because you don't know the state of mind that that person might be in. And with the past experience with police dealing with people who had a mental issue, they're being killed or injured in the process of them apprehending them.
Shelley Poole is a mental health crisis co-responder. The licensed therapist works in concert with Omaha Police.
We want to decrease hospitalizations. We want to decrease incarcerations. We want to decrease any escalation in the moment that could happen that would cause that consumer to have to be transported somewhere for a higher level of care.
Mark Lang is one of 320 Omaha police officers who have been trained in crisis intervention. Officer Lang appreciates having an expert on the team.
It helps to have the licensed therapist with us. A lot of times they have additional resources that we don't necessarily have. or they have a quicker way to get those resources to our consumers.
The family member in this situation is happy to see this team working together, and she's happy with the results.
I am very relieved that it turned out good that she was here and that they were able to get him to move and take him where he can go to get some more help.
Poole says this interaction, like all the others, is not a one-and-done deal.
We get to follow up with them. So I got to follow up with a family member today, and then I can do that in a few days and make sure that that consumer's connected to the resources needed.
On your side in Omaha, I'm John Chapman, 6 News.
Right now, Omaha Police has 4 co-responders working with the Behavioral Health and Wellness Unit and 1 mental health coordinator. And the police plan to certify more officers in crisis intervention with 5 classes planned this year.
So yeah, I think this is a great thing that the Omaha Police Department has implemented. It's a great way to make sure the police officer, as well as the person going through a mental health crisis, they're both safe. Having that mental health professional there really is a good way to keep the situation calm and make sure everything goes the way that it's supposed to. It also seems like they're having positive feedback about this from the community, which is great. Something else that I've seen other departments do that Omaha's not doing is, along with the mental health professional, they'll have the police officer in plain clothes, not driving a police car, marked police car, as well as not having their gun visible. This is just another way to help keep the situation calm and make sure everything goes smoothly. So now I'm going to talk specifically about the Lincoln Police Department, about Detective Chris Shampoo and his unit, the mental health of police in Lincoln, LPD's response to mental health within the department, optional resources that are available for officers, the mental health training that they receive at the academy, street cops and mental health, change of mentality in officers, and mental health crises in the Lincoln community. So first, I've known Detective Chris Shampoo a very long time. I'm really good friends with his son. I've known him most of my life. And he's been working in the Special Victims Unit at LPD for 14 years. This unit's comprised of 10 officers, 5 that deal with the adult cases and 5 that deal with child cases. They cover everything from domestic assault cases to child and adult sexual assault cases, deaths of babies, children. So I thought he'd be a great person to talk to about mental health because of the terrible things that he sees on a daily basis and is still able to do his job. So mental health of police, they deal with anger, frustration, exhaustion, paired with a lack of support from the community. Chris was telling me that he's been in this unit for so long that he no longer is able to touch dead babies. It really bothers him, and that's just a precaution he has to take to make sure that his mental health stays in good shape. He also said that it's hard on marriages and causes hostility at home. Like previously stated, the suicide rate is much higher in cops as well as the divorce rate. He said during his time at the Lincoln Police Department, there's been 2 suicides. Something else he said was that it's a lot harder to deal with the stuff that he sees at work when he had kids the same age at home, which is totally understandable. That would be very hard on your mental health because it hits home a lot harder. Something else is being understaffed has led to officers being buried in cases, which is also very taxing on mental health. So all of these things can be very hard, and it's important that these officers take advantage of the resources that they have to make sure that they can do their job effectively as well as maintain a healthy lifestyle. So LPD's response to mental health within their department, every officer is mandated at least once a year to talk to a mental health professional. most do this. Most think it's a good idea and that it's beneficial, and this has only become mandated in the last couple of years. Something else that's happened recently is mental health is becoming more often a topic in department meetings. Something else that I didn't really think about that he brought up is that when these officers talk to a mental health professional, it's really important that who they talk to. He gave the example that after a very tough case, one of his partners went to talk with a mental health professional, and this person was very new, didn't really know exactly what they were going to be getting into and talking about, and the professional ended up crying, which is not something you want to have in a counseling session by the professional. Something that's specific to the Special Victims Unit is after they deal with a case involving the death of a child, they do a debriefing, and the team has the opportunity to go to the Continuum of Care campus here in Lincoln and just talk with those people about how it affected them and things like that. Again, it's all completely optional. Some other optional resources for officers. OPD has a team of officers and sergeant who are certified as peer support officers. These are basically cops that other cops can talk to about things they're going through, things that are bothering them, and the meeting is also completely confidential. So earlier on I talked about how a lot of officers don't seek mental health services because they don't believe that the professional knows what they go through, as well as they don't believe the meetings will be confidential. So this takes care of both of those points, and I think it's a great thing that the Lincoln Police Department has implemented for their officers. OPD also offers resiliency training, which is comprised of a 3-day course that trains you better for everything you're going to encounter as a cop, and this is also new within the last couple of years. It's called Resilient Minds on the Front Lines. I put in here again how in the Special Victims specifically, the team's able to go to the Continuum of Care campus and talk with those professionals. So I asked him about the mental health that trainees receive at the academy, and he was actually able to pull up the academy calendar and tell me exactly what they do. And they have in Lincoln, they have one full day of mental health / homelessness classroom training, and then another half day working on various scenarios. He said that when he was going through the academy, they did not have any training in mental health. They didn't have any training in mental health, so I think it's a positive thing to see that OPD is recognizing this as a problem that's only getting worse. So like I said, Chris Shampoo is a detective, so he's not really out on the streets making arrests and doing that kind of thing. But street cops deal with the same kind of issues, anger, frustration, exhaustion, along with a lack of community support. Something specifically is that they have a staffing issue, so not having enough cops is very taxing on their mental health. It also spreads the city very thin as a whole and just can be very stressful. It's the same kind of thing with any job. You know, if someone's supposed to show up and they don't, you have to pick up the slack, and it's only worse with police officers. Officers can also dread going back to work because of the exorbitant amount of calls that they receive and not having nearly enough officers to take all these calls. All these things can be very, very taxing on your mental health, and it's important to recognize these things so that you can address them and they don't cause bigger issues. So, like I said earlier, there has been a stigma around mental health in policing for a very long time, and it seems that times are changing, the mentality of officers is changing, which is a great thing. I asked him just, personally, how do you deal with the things that you see on a daily basis? And he basically said the longer that you're in it, the better you get at pushing it away. I'm not really sure if that's a good thing, a bad thing, indifferent. I'm not really sure. Yeah, like I said, traditional cops that weren't seeking help before now are. They're recognizing it as more of a problem. Something in the past that led to this was a lack of resources for officers. In LPD specifically, peer support counseling has always been available, but it never really gained traction. Not a lot of people went to it. Chris said specifically that he would rather have a one-on-one counseling thing than in a group of his peers, so that could also be something with that as well. Mental health of cops and mental health in the community are major issues, and dealing with that has become an increasingly important topic in recent years. So that is also really good to see that they're recognizing this as something that's very important. Although he's not out in the community every day like street officers are, I asked him if he could speak on this a little bit. And he said, in Lincoln, there's a massive shortage in mental health facilities with a massive influx of mental health patients, and it's only become gradual, and it's getting gradually worse over time. He also said that mental health is intertwined in almost every case that they do, and it's becoming very common in recent years. The level of mental health cases from police is very high, with the availability of community resources very lacking. Mental health isn't a law enforcement problem, but in a lot of places, including Lincoln, it falls on them. I asked him if LPD had any plainclothes officers, that go to these mental health calls that aren't, driving a police car on the things that I was talking about earlier. He said they have one plainclothes officer that is a mental health liaison, but they do not have kind of the thing that Omaha has already implemented. Something that I didn't know that he brought up is that cops have the authority to put a citizen in EPC for a maximum of 3 days, which is emergency protective custody. It's something that only cops can do, and they can do this for a variety of reasons. The person could be suicidal, homicidal, things like that, and it gives mental health professionals at least a little bit of time to evaluate these people. But like I said earlier, there's a massive shortage in mental health facilities, and he said that one time when they put a citizen in EPC, North Platte was the closest place that they could take them. So, these are my references. So like I said, mental health is an increasingly bigger problem in not only the community, but as police officers as well. And it's very important that the police officers recognize that it's a problem and use the resources that are given to them so that they can take care of themselves, not only at work, but outside of work, so that they can maintain a good lifestyle and just be healthy.